An act of extortion, the ultimatum. The story begins with a single, seismic leak. A secret telegram sent to Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso. The demand was audacious and brutal. Traoré had just 48 hours to hand over 70% of the country's gold reserves. The alternative was an immediate demand for a $5.6 billion debt repayment, plus an additional $324 million in IMF debt. The author of the ultimatum was none other than Donald J. Trump, then President of the United States. This wasn't diplomacy. It was a brazen act of economic warfare disguised as a debt collection. The cable, delivered at 6:30 a.m. on August 12, 2025, by a trusted intermediary, laid out the terms in chillingly clear language. Burkina Faso was to either allow G7-backed corporations from the US, Canada, the UK, France, and Germany to begin mining and exporting the gold, or face the financial ruin of immediate debt repayment. The message's tone, believed to be dictated by Trump himself, was cold and arrogant. "We saved you from terrorism. Now it's time to pay your debts or pay the price." This was not just a threat. It was a test of sovereignty, designed to make Traoré kneel and demonstrate the West's unwavering control over African resources. A nation's response, defiance, and a secret weapon. The ultimatum was a massive miscalculation. Captain Traoré, a man not easily intimidated, refused to back down. He immediately convened a meeting with his key political, military, and mining leaders and delivered a clear message. Tell the G7 and the IMF Burkina Faso is not for sale. Within hours, the story exploded across Africa, from Lagos to Kinshasa, with headlines screaming about the West's demands. But Traoré's defiance was more than just a public statement. It was backed by a secret weapon. For months, a covert geological task force had been at work, and they had confirmed a colossal deposit of untapped mineral wealth in northern Burkina Faso. This discovery, encrypted by North Korean specialists, was the real reason for the West's sudden aggression. US and French surveillance satellites had picked up on unusual activity, and signals of gold had lit up their screens. Traoré had quietly reclaimed control of the nation's gold mines, expelling G7-backed contractors and redirecting the revenue into a domestic development fund. This wasn't just defiance. It was a blueprint for a new kind of African sovereignty, and it terrified the Western powers. They wanted to kill the idea before it could spread. The Pan-African firewall, allies, and new partnerships. The pressure on Traoré was immense. The CIA increased its presence in West Africa, drones flew over gold routes, and smear campaigns branded him as reckless and unstable. However, the plan to create internal chaos failed. The people of Burkina Faso rallied behind their leader. University students held events on resource sovereignty, women's groups brought supplies to soldiers, and young people used social media to mock the Western news narratives. Traoré had become more than a president. He was a symbol of resistance. Noja provided advanced electronic warfare systems to protect the gold mines from drone attacks. The West's pressure campaign had backfired, creating a powerful, unified front against its neo-colonial ambitions. The final blow, sovereignty and a viral uprising. With the 48-hour deadline approaching, the world watched to see if Traoré would cede to the pressure. Instead, he made his boldest move yet. Behind closed doors, Burkina Faso's National Assembly passed a historic resolution. All gold reserves were nationalized, permanently protected from foreign ownership. Every Western company still operating in the country was told to pack its bags. Traoré then addressed the nation, no longer in uniform, but in traditional attire. His message was unwavering. Burkina Faso is not afraid, and I will not negotiate with thieves. The streets erupted in celebration. 2 days later, Trump's angry tweet, "Traoré just made the biggest mistake of his life. Africa will pay for this," was met not with fear, but with laughter. Traoré's response was simple. That's the sound of an empire losing control. The threat was real. The U.S. Navy moved warships closer to the Gulf of Guinea, but the people of Africa rose up in a historic show of support. Thousands gathered outside U.S. embassies in Nigeria, South Africa, and elsewhere, carrying signs that read, "Touch Traoré, and you touch all of us." The final blow came from a 43-second video in which Traoré declared, I would rather die standing than live kneeling. The video was shared millions of times, and the IMF's ultimatum had failed. Traoré hadn't just survived. He had rewritten the rules and ignited a new era of African self-determination.